Okay, the next part of the rubric we are looking at is audience. And the rubric says the text anticipates the audience's knowledge level and concerns about the claim. The text addresses the audience's concerns. Now this is kind of tricky because first you have to know who your audience is, and then you have to know what they need. So let me spell it out for you. I am not your audience. I'm just the one grading your paper, making sure that you can do this. You are actually trying to convince an academic equal to you. So think of it this way. Think of a student who is in another English class, another college prep class, somebody who is not reading the same material and someone who's not answering the same question as you, but you are having an academic conversation about this topic. That means that you're going to need to put in all MLA information, all citation information, when introducing the source. If we look at Enrique's journey, for example, and sophomores, you can understand that neither the freshmen or the juniors have read this book. So if you think about that, you're going to have to think about what extra information do I need to provide. So I've given you some examples here, and this first one, you do want this information up at the top. Los Angeles Times writer Sonia Nazario, in her memoir Enrique's Journey, states, you need all of that so that the reader understands where you're getting your information from. Now once you do that, you never have to do it again in the paper, but you will probably need to refer to Nazario. And in that case, you either want to use Ms. Nazario or you want to use Nazario. Never call her Sonia. You don't know her. I met her last year and I still wouldn't call her Sonia. I would call her Ms. Nazario. When you are quoting from the book, you also need to make sure you're telling where it is in the book and what page and what's happening in the book. So don't just drop in a quote. You would say, when Enrique's mother leaves her, Enrique turns to drugs. So you need to add that kind of information. Moving on. The next part of the rubric is cohesion. Cohesion is a word, if you think of the word adhesive, tape is an adhesive. What does tape do? It binds one thing to another thing. Cohesion means that it's doing it all together. What this really means are the four or five paragraphs that are in the essay fully connected? Do they have that very clear claim running through the entire paper? In order to do that, you need words, phrases, and clauses to link the major sections together. When I look at a paper for cohesion, here's what I look for. First of all, are they clearly divided into these four entities? Your introduction, that has the hook and the thesis, the two or three body paragraphs, and each of those paragraphs has a topic sentence that relates to the thesis, and then it also has the two chunks concluding sentences and a transition into the next paragraph. Notice these transitions in yellow. You could use first as a transition from the introduction into the first body paragraph. In addition, notice down at the conclusion, to sum up, therefore, in the final analysis. Is there something missing here? If you said in conclusion, you're right. The reason I don't include that is because it is so commonly used, and you do want to vary the sentence structure and the vocabulary that you use, so try to use something other than in conclusion. But you still want to make sure that you have that claim in the conclusion. You can rephrase the thesis and maybe possibly a call to action. Moving on, the last part of the rubric we have are the conventions. Now, you can write a wonderful idea paper and you have lots of evidence and you have really good ideas about that evidence, but if you have a lot of errors in it, this part of the rubric will pull you down at least one grade level. So you want to make sure that you're very careful when you turn in your drafts. The conventions include the MLA formatting, and I'll show you about that in just a moment. Grammar and syntax, we want academic language only. We want no run-ons or fragments. This here really makes the paper difficult to read. You want correct use of capitals and end punctuation. And then you want to limit the number of spelling and grammar errors. Both Word and Google Docs have great spell and grammar checks. Now be careful as you go through it. Don't assume that the computer is going to give you the first right answer. I would recommend, if you have Google, to get the app Grammarly. Grammarly is a great app in that not only does it tell you what's wrong with the particular piece, but it shoots you over to a lesson that teaches you all about grammar. Finally, vocabulary and sentence structure. It's all about variety. Simple sentences, compound sentences, complex sentences. Are you using your rhetoric to an effect? You want to use vocabulary. If there's a better word you can think of, then use that word instead. But don't use a bunch of words you don't know the definitions to. That actually turns out to be worse. I would rather have your voice, but I want you to stretch your ability to write academically. And that's what you're doing. Every time you write, you're practicing that. Okay, so to the MLA formatting. Now, if you go to the OWL, Purdue OWL, OWL stands for Online Writing Lab. That is where I go to in order to make sure that I have the MLA formatting correct. It must be double spaced. You must use 12-point font, either in Arial or Times New Roman. You have 1-inch margins all around, no spacing between paragraphs. Each paragraph is indented, and then your headings are specific to what MLA requires. The title is centered, but remember to left justify the essay. I got an essay today, completely, totally centered. You must change that. After you center the title, you must change it back to left justified. Take a look at this paper. This is a really nice example of what an MLA formatted paper looks like. You have the last name of the student with the page number. The student's full name is up at the left-hand top, the course name, my name or the professor's name, and then the date which the paper was submitted.